So, today we will segue onto some different topics later in the day. So, today now at this moment we will talk about matching with monetary transactions. So, last 2 days we saw auctions. From tomorrow we will see matching without monetary transactions. So, the matching market without monetary transactions is probably the most celebrated, perhaps the most well known, for all good reasons, sort of kind of a greatest hit of game theory in the last 100 years. And in the slide that we discussed at the very beginning, we had lots of problems. And if you remember, there were those questions about how to match. Okay, I probably did not say it because it was giveaway. Matching college applicants with available seats, matching organ and donor pairs, P2P networks, and so on and so forth. So, they come into that framework of matching markets without monetary transactions. And so, you will see what that framework is. Today, we'll talk about what would probably be a more traditional kind of a market, where there is sort of an exchange of money. So, the setting of this particular market is the online advertising market. So, while doing sort of some historical review of how this all began, it turns out that there was this website called goto.com, which was renamed Overture and then acquired by Yahoo in the early aughts, which basically started this search word auction, search advertising keyword market, which is the sort of thing you saw, you heard on the first day, sponsored search. Anybody remember what that was? The sponsored search auction? What was it? Somebody said yes. On the very first day we talked about sponsored search, right?
Yes.
What was it?
Selling the position to advertisers.
Okay. So, you search a you just search, you put in a keyword on Google search engine, along with the search results, you see a bunch of ads, right? That's the sponsored search market. As people come in, they punch in their keywords, the type of ads that are shown, what kind of ads that are shown, how they are placed, and so on. That's the problem. So, based on, I believe, yes, he did tell you, you may not remember that if a user clicks on one of those links, then some money is transferred to Google's account from that advertiser. In this case, we are the user, people who are searching the keywords. Google is the publisher, and the companies that are buying, sort of placing ads with Google search engine are the advertisers. Okay. So, Yahoo, which probably no longer exists in any form that it did at once upon a time, was a market leader in this category. It had a very sort of well known search engine, and it was also doing the same thing. Now, Google launched its AdWords, the same thing, like how to monetize search, keyword search basically. That is what broadly the AdWords problem is. The problem of monetizing, rather revenue maximizing this sort of a keyword search market, and they wanted to do it without affecting the quality of their search. Meaning, when I search for something, the items that I see on the pages, and then there are several pages like right, you can scroll through the next page and so on and so forth. That will remain unbiased, that will not be affected, and so on and so forth, because the product that Google is providing to the to users is that search, right, that you search, it is a search engine, right. The way it monetized was, we will just show some relevant ads, they will be unobtrusive. Well, that is kind of a arguable thing, like what is unobtrusive ad, but that is how they, because this free of cost service needed to be funded by something, and that is where this marketplace came into existence. So, this happened also around the same time. I already said this AGT, basically algorithmic game theory, really took off in the because of the need of the hour in the late 90s, was this: how to decide this thing, which ads to show in a sort of a fraction of a second, right, and sort of in a way that would generate revenue for Google. Now, it turns out that in this year 23-24 already, the revenue market for this particular product, like search, keyword search based advertising, has well surpassed $450 billion, and it can only grow, right. As search itself becomes more and more sophisticated, with with sort of AI becoming more and more ubiquitous in all aspects of life, this marketplace will also change. But it already is such a lucrative marketplace, and there are several stakeholders now, several big operators. Facebook, while it is not a traditional search engine, but if you if you are doing anything on Facebook, you see bunch of ads on the side and so on and so forth, right. So, other companies that are not traditionally search engines are also sort of using the same sort of model to monetize their services. Okay. So, now why? Now, see, the point is, we keep hearing newspapers are going out of fashion, going out of business and so on and so forth, right. Like newsrooms are really struggling. Now, this idea of generating revenue via advertising is nothing new. They have been doing it for a long time, like for as long as the newspapers have been in existence. People are allowed and able to sort of sell ads. But then clearly that has not been a very financially secure channel for these newspaper publishers. Yet all these other tech companies seems to be sort of minting money. So, what do you think is basically going on? Like, what are these search engines able to tap into that traditional advertising spaces, be it newspaper, magazine, hoardings and so on and so forth, are such a small fraction, I mean, in comparison to revenue generation?
Proper placement of the ads.
Proper place.
Be seen properly.
They're more personalized.
We also
Relevant.
saw risk sharing by the one who is putting the ads.
The
Risk share.
newspapers have no record of how many people see the ad and what kind of. So the advertiser will not know how much revenue is generated by placing their ad in the newspaper. So they don't have to. The newspapers won't make money out of that. But if it's being published online, then the number of clicks is a record of the number of people who visit their store based on these advertisements. So.
Okay, that's true as a fact. However, what does that have to do with the, I mean, just because somebody is clicking on the ad does not mean there is actually a purchase, right? That is one thing. Secondly, just because they are able to track who all are coming to that website, how does that help the search engine, like the Google, let us say Google, whose ads brought that user to that website, actually help make money, is what my question is. Like, how is the market size? So, you can only get revenue when there is a market for it, right? That is a normal thing. Like, you can only sell something when there is a buyer for an item. So, I am saying, simply stated, the economic question is, why do you think that Google has tapped into this really vast market of advertisers, whereas the traditional publishers are not able to?
They're able to tap into attention basically. The more attention the user gives, the more revenue they generate. But with newspaper, it's not always relevant to the user. With like search engines, it's relevant.
Okay.
Online thing.
I am not sure if there is really a direct correlation between how much time you spend on. From what you are saying, I would presume what it means is that a longer a person spends on the internet, the more likelihood it is that they might make a purchase.
The more likely that they are going to see more ads.
Yes. Okay. I think these are all valid observations and all. What actually the issue is that anybody, a very small business owner, like stay at home, like a cottage industry, like a really small entity business person also can place ads with Google. Whereas buying a hoarding on a highway, it's prime real estate. advertising, it takes a lot of money, and then you have to make something, like you have to make a hoarding, like it's a much more sort of a monetary investment. Google ads are small dollar investments from the part of the businesses. So, this idea of how the money that advertising companies a company spends on its advertising follows this idea of a power law. So, anyways, it does not matter what that precisely is. So, basically what Google, there are statistical sort of technicalities as to what that means and how, where the revenue is that Google and companies like that are able to tap into, and that others can't, is this sort of a fat tail of the power decomposition of the power distribution. So, anyway, if that does not make sense to you, all you should take away is the fact that at least you should sort of think for yourself and agree that anybody, even you, can place an ad. If you like, you make something and you want to sell it, you know, you can place ad for your own marketplace, and that does not have to be a store, does not have to be anything, right. So, it allows people, many more people, to be visible than these other traditional ad buys. Newspaper ads depends on how, which newspaper, what day of the week, the placement and all. The financially, it's a significantly, like the cost it would take to publish on the front page on Sunday is significantly higher than in the back page and so on. Okay. So, not everybody can afford that, and so. So, this is a much bigger market, in simple words, because of that. It is an every day, every second of the day, all the time, 24 hours market. So, you see, like just imagine, right as I speak the sentence, how many people are entering search words in all over the world. So, for each of those users, Google is showing some ads, and for some non-zero probability and some fraction of that, even if it is very small, some of those people would actually click on an ad. So, that basically brings in, it is a huge big volume of, you know, it is a much larger volume of ads being shown, and whatever it is that actualizes their revenue is able to happen, as opposed to the traditional advertising sort of channels. Okay. So, this really is the story of their dramatic success. Now, so there is this issue of the thing is that there is this marketplace where these ads should be like shown, which in response to the search words that we are sort of typing in. Now, essentially though, I think you would agree, who sees what ads vary greatly. So, you and I could actually be putting in the same keyword, but seeing completely different ads. And Shaprabhu mentioned this at the beginning, the first day of his lecture, that it is partly because Google makes you accept their terms, under their terms and condition, they are able to mine your emails, they are able to mine your chats and whole lot of things. So, they develop a profile of you, of the type of person you are, the type of things you are looking for, and so on. And similarly for all other people. So, just because we are punching in the same keyword does not sort of generate the same ad. Okay. So, so this question itself is non-trivial, right? Who gets to see which all ads? You agree? So, that is a matching question, matching in the standard sense of the word. Who gets to see what is a matching thing. So, I am not talking about matching in terms of where you just match one item to another item, that is the most straightforward restricted version of matching. When we talk about matching, mostly what we mean is like an allocation. So, one thing or entity can be matched to a bunch of things. So, in this case, one search word can be matched to a bunch of different ads. So, this is like a generalized matching. Okay. So, for the purpose of this talk, that is sort of the thing I mean. So, it is inherently a matching question. I think we can all agree. So, where does the auction come from? Why are we doing auctioning?
Because many people want to show their ads.
So
whose ad they will keep first? That is auction.
Okay. So, that's actually that is true. Whose ad to show? Well, can they not have a price attached to the keyword and say, oh, whoever whichever advertiser is willing to pay this price, that person, those people's ad would be shown.
just
Like maybe not more relevant
just
to
the
the
advertisers.
Okay. Part of, yes, I mean that's true. Like this is not a this is the matching here would be, I will get the type of keywords that are being mapped to the type of advertisements that are being mapped to me would be different from those that are mapped to you, even though we are punching in the same keywords. Yes. So, now presumably you can imagine that they can, because this is such a large marketplace, so many people are interested, Google has some kind of a profile on all of these people and knows, okay, this much I am value I am going to associate with this keyword for this person versus that person, because this person might be more likely to, I do not know, click, or that one no, and so on and so forth. So, all that is on theory which could happen. The problem is, this particular market is very heterogeneous. There are lots of different items, like you can imagine that the search word space is basically infinite in the sense, in the realistic sense of the word. It is not infinite like in a math way, because okay, there are only, let us say, finite number of words in the English language, but I am saying that still it is a humongously large thing. And items and numbers are like, and the variety of search queries, the way people search, it is a huge thing, and it is not clear what price the market is willing to pay, right. So, Google itself does not know what is the value for this particular keyword. On certain days, certain keywords trend, right. This is the sort of the word of this generation, let us say, trending. So, then on those days perhaps that keyword takes on a higher value than on other days. So, having an auction like scenario allows us to do price discovery. It is basically simply an idea that where you learn how the market values this item. Okay. It happens in high value markets like paintings. They will have a certain price, they are not going to give a Picasso away for less than $50 million, let us say, but they do not know how high somebody is willing to go. So, they bring it to Sotheby's or Christie's, and then the bidding begins, right. This sort of the kind of dramatic auction that you would see in movies, where people are outbidding each other, somebody goes bankrupt and the other person then gets the thing that the other person really wanted. So, that sort of thing. Okay. So, anyways, the long story short, there is a notion, there is this idea that the precise price that and of course, these are companies that are there to make profit. So, I already said this is after all a revenue maximization question from Google's perspective. So, they want to know what the right price the market will value it at. So, auction allows this thing. Okay. Now, why is it a matching, online matching? So, where is the question of online matching comes in? There is an auction component, we agreed, the pricing part, what value, what, and so on and so forth.
You can't show the ads to any person, so there the matching comes in.
Yes. Now, are you all familiar with the setting of online algorithms? Okay. Just to be clear, I wrote it here, then okay. So, the traditional kind of algorithm is where you have the input provided to you on a tape, right, on some sort of thing. The algorithm can read it, whichever part of the input it wants to read, and then it makes some processing decisions. An online setting is one where the entire input is not provided to you on a tape, it comes piece by piece, and at each time step you have to make a decision, irrevocable decision, something that you cannot change later on, whether depending on what input, what problem you are solving. So, in this case, the scenario is somebody is, while Google might have a huge database of potential search words, it does, that is how the sort of the its algorithm, indexing algorithm works, but it does not know at any given time who is going to search for what, right. So, the search words come in, and so there is there are basically two sides of this. One are the advertisers who are interested in search words, and this particular showing their ads corresponding to those keywords. Now, that is what I am calling this thing. So, there you have advertisers here, and on the other side you have these keywords that are of interest to at least a subset of those advertisers, right. So, it is naturally a bipartite graph situation. Now, what we do not know is, at which point, so one side is well known, the people who are interested in advertising with Google. So, in the beginning of the day, there is a form, basically in the beginning of the day, meaning you fill out a form where you basically express interest in certain keywords, you declare your budget, that is how this actually this Google's advertising works. And then Google already knows today these are the people who are interested in advertising with us, and so on and so forth. What they do not know is the user side, the people who will punch in the keywords and at what order and which sequence, and therefore, it cannot a priori decide who gets to see which ad. Is this clear? So, this is the online model of matching versus if it knew all that information, these are the keywords, these are the advertisers, these are the search words, and it can run an algorithm and just decide an optimal solution. Okay? All right. So, and this is again a generalized matching, it is not a one-to-one matching, it is this thing that one search word can sort of get multiple advertisers assigned to it, and the setting is inherently online, as I just now said. So, what you can think of, what is unknown is this graph, like if you think about the vertices, on one side you have advertisers, on the other side you have the search keywords. The graph is at each time when there is something gets the graph, basically the edges are which advertiser is interested in which keyword, and mind you, one advertiser could be interested in multiple keywords. Okay? So, if you are a law firm, you are not necessarily just serving one particular type of client, you might have lots of different specialties, and so you are basically bidding for keywords relevant to all those areas of specialty. Same for hospitals, right? All these multi-specialty hospitals. They have so many things. I mean, when you search for any sort of disease and all, you see so many clinics, so many so on so forth that they come up. It is basically that idea. Okay.
These keywords are generated online, so why don't we know that graph? At least
we
from
know
the advertisers.
We know the potential keywords. What we do not know is when they will be put in, and what happens when you punch in a keyword, you immediately see the ad, right?
Like advertiser side's graph is at least known to us, right?
What do you mean advertiser side graph?
So someone wants to advertise and they are giving their keywords.
Okay.
So I think when user is searching, at that time they have to maybe give it fast or something like that.
So the idea of the users, the advertiser side, the graph, it does not make any sense. The graph exists only as a relationship between the advertiser and the keywords. So as a sense, you can have a static graph where you basically say, okay, this user, this advertiser is interested in this keyword, particular keyword in general, because based on whatever they have formed, they have this thing. Okay, that is true. The point is, there is also a budget. Okay, so let us say that is fact. Now, what we do not know is the order in which these. Okay, just for simplicity, at any time people are simultaneously searching for a bunch of different things. Suppose we discretize that, and at every time step there is only one search thing coming through. Okay, let us assume that for a minute. Even then, what you don't, then what do you not know? You do not know the order in which these keywords will come in. So, at a time one keyword comes in, a bunch of people are interested. At a different time another keyword comes in, now a bunch of different. So, while the large underlying graph is known, what is changing over time step is that relation. What is revealed to you in that time step is that relation. On top of that, and the point is, the moment somebody searches, immediately a bunch of ads have to be shown. They can't defer it, right? So, Google's search, this algorithm has to immediately make a decision which ads to show. So, that is that online irrevocable decision thing. It does not do edits after it has shown. So, okay, this was a suboptimal allocation, let us change it. You know, if you come back to that page, you forgot about it, come back to the tab, the ads do not change, right. So, you can think of it in that way.
What does this graph look like?
It is a bipartite graph. You do not know what a bipartite graph is? You have vertices can be partitioned on two sides, all edges are going across. There are no edges between vertices on one particular side.
There are users and advertisers and the
Not
keywords are
users,
less.
advertisers and keywords. Okay, think about not users, keywords. Okay.
So I had a question like, why can't the problem be posed as in like a multiple object option, where one of them is for position, the other is for keywords, at a particular position on the Google search. So then
So what is the allocation here then?
as in the keyword.
It is that you search for a keyword.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of people interested. Now, what thousands and thousands of advertisers are interested in that particular keyword. Let's say Google will pick, let's say, 4 of them, and position only those 4 of them in front on my browser screen. Correct? And the order, the slots that they assign can also be different. Like it is a slot sensitive assignment. That's exactly what it is. So, all I was talking about is the more generic thing, which subset of advertisers to even show. Forget about the slot placement, right. From thousands and thousands of advertisers who might be interested in the word, let us say, knee replacement, right. There are hospitals, there are standalone clinics, there might be medical instrument companies and so on and so forth. Of that, only Google will show 4 of them to me. Which 4 of them? That itself, that is the basic matching question. Okay, all right. So now you might say that the auction for 2 different slots are kind of independent, right. The same person is not the same advertiser is not going to get assigned to the 2 different slot, to the same slot in front of somebody's banner and so on and so forth. So, why am I not making decision like independently? For this slot, Google decide, okay, these are the people who could be, one of them will be assigned for this slot. So, why don't we completely de-entangle this sort of a thing? Do you understand what I am trying to say? Like, why are we not, why is Google, for example, not say, okay, this user's real estate sort of browser real estate allows for 4 ads to be placed. Each slot comes with some value, first slot presumably most important and so on. There are actually results which show that maybe first is not that useful after all, because some people accidentally click on the first and so on. So, it does not represent intention and so on, but let us say first is the most important, most significant, that is, it is most visible. And therefore, they have a way of assigning ads in the first position, and then basically they are doing simultaneous auctions for the first slot, second slot, third slot, fourth slot, right. This is a possible way of thinking that why are we not doing this. So, so what do you think, could we do this, by the way?
The advertisers are competing for slots, right? So how can we do simultaneously for like?
No, because they might think that, okay, like there were lots of rationale how they assign those slots, right. Click per view, like a past history and so on and so forth. There was a technical word that he used which basically says the reputation of this particular company. Like if I am looking for a SUV, who makes SUVs in Indian market? Tata makes, who does? Who Honda, I don't know who makes SUV. So, they even within that there are certain companies which have a bigger market share and so on. So, Google might think I am just going to put that company on the first slot, because anyways that is the most famous company. If a person is really seriously looking for an SUV, they should might as well just go and click on this, right. That kind of thing logic has. So, maybe this is something we can do. The problem is, there is, as I said at the very beginning of the reason why Google was able to tap into such a large, almost untapped market of users is because it does not you can bring 5 rupees perhaps and advertise on Google. There is no minimum amount of money that you need to advertise on Google. Okay. So, this is why they ask for your budget at the beginning of the day, because when the auction, advertising market, that sort of keyword search or matching auction starts taking place, it goes so fast, it can't send in a request to the advertiser saying somebody is interested in this keyword, are you interested in showing your ad? That does not happen. Once you have expressed your intent of advertising and you have expressed your budget, you are basically giving Google investment right of that budget. Whatever money you are willing to pay, Google decides how to allocate it via showing of ads. And based on that, and so but Google's promise is what? It's sharing the risk in the sense that if its algorithm is really bad and nobody clicks on your ads, right, then it will get no money from you. Okay? So, that is the thing. So, the budget of an user particularly basically decides there is a bit of a there is quite a bit of dependency for certain ads, for certain keywords. Maybe this user gets to show its ad gets, this advertiser's ad gets shown in the first slot, but for later in the day maybe he only has budget for second or third slots. Okay? So, all these things happen. So, at the very least, is it clear what I am saying? Right. So, it is basically the way the framework works is at the beginning of the day you give money to, you promise a certain amount of money to Google, and Google will basically to the end of the day only use that much amount of money, no more. That is their guarantee. So, it is not going to be like and this is an example that was used to be discussed a lot earlier on when these papers would sort of in conferences on, which is that it is not like you decided to place ads with Google and at the end of the day you realize you are bankrupt because so much of your basically companies funds have been utilized in placing ads with Google. That would never happen. So, this is the other guarantee. Okay. So, so at the heart of everything, all of this is so slots have different value assigned to it. Google understands this, the advertisers understand this, and so on and so forth. But no matter what the assignment is, all through the day, the entire time that your ads are being shown, it will going to be respecting the budget. So, what is the underlying combinatorial question now? I have thrown in bunch of constraints. It should be reasonable because I search for an ad, a particular keyword, and therefore, I get to see this relevant ad. So, there is a reasonable compatibility thing, right, and then there is a budget thing. So, can you tell me what kind of a question we are looking for now? So, this is a revenue maximizing assignment. I am using the word assignment and not matching because again it is a more generalized this thing assignment that respects budget. Okay. All right. So, let us see what is the general setup of this question. This paper, this problem was studied in early 2000. The journal paper came out in 2005. Just a few days ago, this paper by Aranak Mehta, I forgot his first name, Saberi, Umesh Waziran, Amin Saberi, right. Aranak Mehta, Amin Saberi and Umesh Wazirani and Vijay Wazirani. The first two were the student of Vijay's when this work was done, and they formulated the basic combinatorial question at the heart of it, which is a budgeted online matching question. Okay. You can think of it as a weighted online matching question, but with budget constraint. So, the advertiser, this side of the vertex is known, each individual budget is known, and this is the every advertiser submits a bid, advertiser I submits a bid for a keyword saying that this bid basically expresses the way in any auction it does your interest in this particular keyword. Okay. So, the bid basically tells Google a company like this that this is how much I am willing to pay for this. Okay. Now, it does not necessarily mean they will get charged this much, but this is what it means. So, larger means more interest, less means lesser interest. Okay. The search keywords come in an online sequence. Okay. So, like this. So, once imagine this is a vertex on this side of the graph, and the bipartite graph is revealed to you step by step, and how this is a search keyword, this is a vertex. The advertisers who are interested in this are these two vertices because they have an edge to this. The next search keyword might be this, and one of the advertisers that is interested in this is this guy. Okay. And so, this search keyword is somehow popular, it has 3 interested advertisers and so on. Obviously, this is a very toy example, and so this does not at all capture the complexity of this particular kind of a graph. Yes, yes, none of that. Imagine the keywords as like all individual vertices.
Like the ads that Google like shows now also, so in their algorithms also they don't like they treat each keyword individually.
Yes. So the people who are advertising with them, they actually have to express. Like, and there are companies who do, PR, branding, advertising company who consult, who say what kind of keywords you should choose, how closely aligned they should be with your brand, your logo, your motto, and all those sorts of things. So how the companies are showing interest, how an advertiser is showing interest in the keywords, whether they are showing interest in the right keyword, that's a separate matter. Okay? So Google or nobody can, that's their business. They just have said that these are the things, these are the keywords I'm interested in. So for example, this guy is interested in whole lot of this one, as well as this one. Okay? So this. Okay. So now, yeah, the more general setup would be, it's more than just a many to one, it's more than, so think about, so can you tell me what kind of a matching we are discussing? Are we talking about a one to many matching or many to many matching? Why?
Because the number of slots are more than one, and the same advertiser can bid for more than one keyword.
Yes, okay. Yeah, even in a particular sense, if, so the thing that I was saying, that if at a time I considered who show, so this is, so while this sequence is being revealed step by step, imagine every vertex and who gets matched to this vertex, which is a keyword, is itself a matching question. This is a step 1 matching question, this is a step 2 matching question, this step 3, and so on. So when, if I don't have multiple slots, this is basically a one to many type of a scenario. Who are the advertisers who get to match to this particular keyword? But when we have multiple slots, this itself becomes a many to many question. Okay, all right. So this is the thing that you should keep in mind, that at each time step, it's like you have to create a new matching outcome. Okay, and as I was just saying, so this paper has been so influential. It received this Test of Time award. It was announced just a week ago, and you can see the name of the paper is AdWords and Generalized Online Matching, and this is the commendation they said about the influential work, the sort of the type of work it started, and that has continued since then. Okay, so bid, when you have multiple slots, this bid information, which was just a value which could be expressed on this edge, this advertiser eyes willingness to pay for this keyword, that would be let us say the weight on this edge. When you have multiple slots, you have a sort of a more refined bit of information. So for slot 1, this is how much I am willing to pay, for slot 2 this much, and so on. Okay. All right. So now what would be your natural instinct as to how do we design this algorithm? One obvious thing would be give it to the highest bidder, right, as it usually happens in these other kinds of auction, a single item auction. The highest bidder gets the item, but maybe but what price they get, that's a separate matter. That's what a second price victory auction is, right? That the first bidder, highest bidder gets the item, but he pays a second price. So as far as the allocation is concerned, why are we just not assigning this search word, this keyword to people? Let us say 4 slots are available to the top 4 bidders.
But there are multiple keywords, so you are saying.
But at every, this is why I said at every step you are doing a matching with respect to this keyword. At the first step, this is, you are deciding which 4 advertisers are to be matched to this keyword among the thousands that have expressed interest on this keyword. That is the matching. Second step, this is the keyword that is being searched, right, and then you have to decide who are the next set of 4 advertisers that get to be assigned to this keyword. So at each step there is a matching question.
So user inputs one sentence, say. So in that there can be multiple keywords, but here we are talking about only one keyword.
Yes, for simplicity's sake, I said like let's, while thousands and thousands, millions of people are punching in keywords simultaneously, right, around the world. We are just assuming as if it's happening discretely, like at every time step just one keyword is coming through. And even when people punch in a sentence, there are certain words have more importance than the other. So Google uses them as a keyword, like it.
Our situation, we are using only one keyword
At a time, yes, at a time, just one keyword and the matching match advertiser. That's the question. So the issue is, if I were to do, can anybody answer this question? What is likely to happen if I do this?
So there could be advertisers remaining with a lot of budget, but with low bids. So
Okay.
like if in the start, if we assign it to the highest bidder every time,
Yeah.
like then there would be a set of advertisers remaining with very high budgets, but low bids, which will go underutilized even after.
Okay, but then though other people have left the market, then their bids will rise to the top, no? Because everybody has finite amount of budget.
Yeah, but they would bid low, so their budget would remain underutilized.
That's okay, but over a whole, so okay, fine. So you are saying through, at the end of the day also their bids remain underutilized.
Yeah, the budget.
Okay, that's one possibility. In an extreme case, some user never got to bid, never got to show its ad because, okay, that's one thing. What about the people whose ads, whose who are getting assigned in earlier part of the day, like people who did bid high, are they at any kind of a disadvantage?
More relevant keywords may appear later and they have used their budget before.
Exactly. So this sort of greasy reassignment can lead to people exhausting their budget earlier in the day and getting a very biased sort of a outcome from the advertiser's perspective. So you sort of in a sort of gambling term, you want to hedge your bet throughout the day. So, and because of the inherent nature of the online setting, you don't know this, for this user advertiser, this might be the highest value, most germane, most relevant search word, right, because this might represent his core area of expertise. But earlier in the day, he had all these options and maybe he bid really high for, and his budget was basically exhausted for just by showing ad being matched to this word, this search word, this keyword and this keyword, right. You don't want that to happen, because what you want to guarantee, I think that much should be clear after the last 2 days talk, which was that you want to design good algorithm, you want to design good auctions, good algorithms, in large part because you want people to have faith in your marketplace. If they have a bad experience, now you can't maybe sort of design out all possible bad experience, that's not possible, but overall you want to encode in as many good practices and guarantees as possible for the other side. Otherwise, why will the other side engage in a business with you? The fact that you are advertising on Google itself is a business that the advertisers are entering in with Google, right. So you want to do all of these things, additional safeguards and all. So that's basically, so as we discussed, this is what happened, that you don't want to run out of budget earlier in the day and you don't want to get a very thinned out, and to Google what might happen is these high value, high budget people have sort of run out, like whatever they might have a high budget as well as high bids, and they are now out of the market, and towards the end of the day the market, the auction market itself has thinned out a lot. So there are lots of fewer options and so on. So that also they don't want. Okay. So now what do you think? Do you know, have you all studied online matching? Do you know any results? If I just asked you, just think about online bipartite matching, normal vertices on one side, normal vertices on the other side. Every vertex, whenever a vertex comes in, you basically see its neighborhood, like what are the vertices on the other side that it is adjacent to. What kind of an algorithm can you design? Is the question clear? You have an A side that is known. This is the online side. So when V1 comes, let's say V1 is a vertex, you learn about all of its neighbors, okay. So V2 comes through, then you realize, okay, these are the neighbors of V2 and so on. Let's say both are n-sided, n-vertex. What can you do here? Matching is a subset of edges. Basically, you decide whom this vertex gets matched to, and it can only get matched to exactly one, at most one vertex on the other side.
So you cannot change what you want.
Yes, that's the online setting. You cannot change. So, okay, how good? Think.
But this edges,
Greedy?
they have weights as such, like.
No, just forget it. No weight. Like everything is value 1. Pratik? I look at a vertex. As long as it has even one vertex, one neighbor available on the other side, I can match that vertex. Right? I match this guy V1 to A1. Okay? Then V2 comes through. A1 has already been matched to V1. So A1 is not available to be matched to V2. But A2 is there and others are, okay, A2 is there. So A2 gets matched, correct? So and so on and so forth. So I can build a matching like this at any time. In this case, right? Okay, that one is a much more complex situation what we are discussing, but this is, I'm just trying to get you to think along with me. What?
Do you know the degree of each vertex in A?
No, all you know are these vertices, and this is revealed in online manner. When V1 becomes available, you know which of these people are its neighbor.
But say A1 has given its keyword that it would like to match with. So
This is not a keyword, it's just a standard bipartite matching question. So if you want to call it an advertiser, these are the advertisers. Every advertiser has bunch of keywords. That all those terminologies work here also, but this is a much more simplistic setting, because every search word will get assigned to exactly one advertiser. The question is which. That's what this question is.
like I was saying that if we know the advertisers have certain keywords, so say an advertiser who has given the least keywords so that its neighborhood is the smallest, so maybe give it to him because maybe he values it more. Because
I don't know who its neighbors will be in the future, because this guy, whether this A2, as of now it seems like V1 and V2 are the only neighbors of A2, but then at the step when I get to Vn, I realize, okay, Vn is also a neighbor of A2. That is the information that is not known.
but we already know that it has certain number of neighbors it would like.
Why? This graph is not, if I knew that the graph would be known, the degree, nothing is known. All I know are these number of advertisers. When do I know this? Even an expression of interest from a user as an advertiser for a particular search keyword does not mean that that keyword will actually be searched in any time of the day. So you can think there are lots of different keywords, but they never actually show up as part of the AdWord problem because they are never searched. Similarly here, I don't know this relationship. Okay, so those of you who are not at all sort of have never seen online bipartite matching or matching of any kind, this might be conceptually really hard, but the point is that this is a fundamental question in all of algorithms. And matching itself it's a paradigmatic problem, and online matching is a similar sort of a problem of significance in the online algorithms framework. So this is the restricted case of the type of problem we are studying. There you have lots of nuances, you have weights on edges, you have multiple capacities and so on and so forth. Okay. So the result that they showed is, so the algorithm that we were just now discussing, where you just now, whenever you have an available vertex to match, you just match it to that, that will give you a 2 approximate algorithm, and it is popularly known as a greedy algorithm. You know what 2 approximate algorithm would mean? It means, or 2 competitive, it is the same thing. It means that your algorithm it means that the solution produced by your algorithm could be at most half size removed from the optimum algorithm. An optimum algorithm would be one where I knew this whole graph, and then I could make all those judicious choices that you were saying. But in the online setting, I don't have that information. If some information is of this kind is revealed to me later, I could very easily be, the algorithm could very easily be tricked into making suboptimal decisions earlier. So, this only guarantees a too approximate solution. So, this question, the AdWords question, which is even more general than this, what hope can we have of doing better than too approximate, right? Or the way I have written it is half, which means sometimes we write 2, sometimes we write half, because it is kind of, let us say, half approximate. So, I can compare. Okay. So, which is better, half approximate or 1 minus 1 by E? What is 1 minus 1 by E? It is greater than half. Okay. So, this basically gives a better algorithm than what a normal greedy would on this very restricted case. That is what this result showed. Now, it crucially assumes this fact. The algorithm will work, but to get this bound 1 minus 1 by E, you basically need to use this property, that any individual's budget is lot larger than any of its bids for any of the slots. That is what this means. The user I's, advertiser I's budget is larger than any of the bids it has submitted. Okay? J is the items that he is interested in on search word, and K is the slot. That sort of thing. Okay? Yes.
Greedy would mean that anytime a keyword comes, we are matching it to, like, we are making the best solution for that, like one advertiser for that.
What does best solution here mean?
That is what I was asking. Like,
So
why are we calling it greedy then?
The greedy is a word that we use, it is a generic word for certain algorithms, when we are basically saying we make some local choice. In this, the local choice is this vertex has an available neighbor who has not yet been matched. So, match it. If it has multiple available neighbors, pick someone and match it. Okay? So, then again V2, if V1 gets matched to A1 and V2 comes next, V2's neighbor V2 cannot be matched with A1, right? Then V2 has the only option of being matched to A2. This sort of very local choices that we make to solve a problem is usually what we call greedy. Yeah.
There are multiple people, multiple advertisers. How will you match it? Multiple agents.
So, that is why I was asking what would be a natural greedy process when you have multiple advertisers bidding for the same keyword. Here this is a one-to-one matching, right? Maximum bid for that, okay, but now you have multiple slots. So, now we are going back to the same thing about using max bid to assign, and then people will exhaust their budget.
Is that to a problem?
Sorry?
Is that to a problem?
Will it work what?
Is that a true approximation?
No, that is also not clear whether it is a true approximation based on, okay, the point is good, actually he raised a good question. The point, this is competitive with respect to what? Over here we have no values, right? We are only talking about size, the largest size matching, because all the bids values here are like 1, everything is the same value. The AdWord question is a revenue maximization question, and we will see a very formal setup. Like Google is trying to get money by showing these ads via those click-through rates and so on, like you have discussed in this. A portion of whatever bid they have submitted, some number corresponding to that, a lesser value would be transferred to Google when somebody clicks on it. This money that it generates is what is its revenue. Okay? So, the goal here is like if you think about the bids as being weights on the edges, it is like a weight maximizing kind of a matching that respects all those constraints, right? The sort of slots and this and that and budget and so on. So, that is sort of this thing, and that greedy thing, it is not clear what actually it would be, just that pure greedy, just assign people to this. for the advert case. Okay.
In this, we are only considering one keyword, right? One keyword. We have to match one advertiser to that keyword, right? The one you discussed before this slide.
Yes, yes, that sort of a thing. And but the entire solution is computed across the whole day. Each keyword is like one time step in the online algorithm sequence. Each time that for each keyword you assign those 4 people is analogous to saying that this vertex gets matched to this, but the matching exists in this whole graph. Okay, that's the thing. This edge is the sort of a analogous assigning V1 to this guy is the analogous thing to what is happening there, where the search word V1 would get assigned, let us say 4 advertisers. But the matching exists in this whole thing. Suppose the day started with V1 and it ends with Vn. So, the quality of the solution would be judged over what could have been possible, what is the best possible outcome it could have attained all through the day. Okay? It is not for one step. That's the thing. That's the objective function. So, just hold on, I will just talk about this and we will get to the formal setup. Now, this is a deterministic algorithm. It turns out that no randomized algorithm can also do a better than this. So, randomization buys us nothing extra. These sorts of results are very significant in the sense that they tell us that a deterministic algorithm is good enough, and like clever randomized algorithm does not necessarily give you a better outcome. Okay? So, now this theorem 1 works for all, even when all of these conditions apply.
What's a competitive ratio?
Comparative ratio is the online equivalent of approximation ratio. You are comparing the performance of an online algorithm with that of an offline adversary, all powerful adversary who can see the entire sequence and run whatever algorithm it wants and gets the best possible answer. It is a theoretical abstraction. It is how we judge the performance of it is the most powerful it is the best possible outcome you can get. Think of it that way.
Next has been second one.
Yeah. Even when the bids are not exactly charged, then also even if you set up that sort of a pricing model, then also the revenue generated will be at least 1 minus 1 by E, as good as the optimum solution. Okay. So, I am going to just quickly show you of, yes.
So, as we match the edges, we can't, once an edge is made, we can't change the weight of the edge.
Yes, we cannot, weight of the edge anyways I cannot change, weight of the edge is part of the input, it is it just represents the bid value of this advertiser for this particular search. I do not ever change the bids. All I am deciding is whether to match this advertiser with this search word.
Not in that case. You wanted to extend that case to a more general case, right?
Yes.
Asking for that.
But I am saying that we never change the bid. All we ever want to decide is which advertiser to match to which keyword. That decision cannot be changed at a later time step. Okay. So, now I am going to just present a framework. So, the original the Mehta Saberi paper also used LP formulation for this problem. The difference is that formulation used this framework of factor revealing LP. Subsequent to that, we have more sort of a better explainable analysis technique using the primal dual thing. Okay. So, we addressed this thing at the for the first day last lecture. So, if you are not very familiar with this would be very difficult to understand, and if you are interested, let me know. I teach this algorithm in full details in my advanced algorithmic game theory course. So, I can share videos and notes with you. Okay. But let us just look at it a little bit, and I will just try to give you a general, how am I doing time wise? 15 minutes are good enough. Okay. Okay. So, this is the general setup where we have this many advertisers. I represents advertisers. We have m number of items, search keywords, and we have this many slots. So, I realized when I was taking the screenshot to put it here, the reason I did not write out because it was becoming too like just overwhelming the slide space. There is this. So, this it should be, the index should be k, k should be from 1 to L, and so you should have b I j k and y I j k. Okay, it is not L. L is the total number of slots that are available for displaying the ad. So, what is happening here is this is an indicator variable which represents y I j k. It is 1, think of it as being 1 if advertiser I gets matched to the keyword j to the slot k. Okay? That is when y I j k is 1, otherwise it is 0. Okay? I am summing over, look at this constraint, for each j, j represents the items. Okay? There are m items, search keywords, I am sorry, I keep changing terminology, it is just it's habit, because usually we just talk in terms of the graph setting. So, these are the items, okay, the keywords. So, for each keyword this constraint should be true. So, what is this constraint saying? It's saying look over all possible advertisers who are interested in this keyword. Okay? Only one of them could be assigned to the slot k, right. No slot can have more than one advertiser, that is it. So, this is a generalized matching constraint. Okay. The slots are like this thing that to which you are, and no slot gets assigned more than one item, more than one advertiser. This is the bids that the advertisers have submitted, the ith advertiser for the jth keyword for the kth slot. Bij times yijk will tell you that this advertiser is actually willing to pay Bijk for this particular keyword j to be assigned to slot k. So, if I look over all possible pairs of search keywords and slots, this whole thing, everything that was actually assigned to the that the advertiser did get matched to, should not exceed the budget Bi. Okay? This is the budget constraint, all right. Okay.
So, you are charging the bid itself, right?
In this case, I am charging the bid itself. So, that is why I said that the way the algorithm was initially presented was like whatever you bid is the bid, that value you will get charged, but the idea can be extended even when you charge second highest bid. Okay? All right. So, now you tell me, we understood what this constraint was, right, which was like to respect the each slot to be given to at most one bidder. What about this? What is this constraint saying? This is also an added, like adding over the number of slots. What is this? Yes, for any keyword, right, look at all possible slots you have. So, no, with respect to one advertiser, yes. So, one advertiser cannot get assigned to multiple slots for the same keyword. So, you do not see the same person ad twice on the page. So, these are fairly common sense. This thing, you agree that if you were designing matching sort of allocation, these should be the properties, right. So, now what am I trying to, what is Google trying to maximize? It is trying to extract the maximum amount of it wants to assign these yijk values in a way that it maximizes this value, because like he just now asked, it will, if it's like if it gets assigned, if it assigns ijk slot to a particular to the advertiser, if it assigns advertiser this thing, if the advertiser I gets assigned the jth keyword to the kth slot, it is Google is entitled to get this much amount of value Bijk. So, it is basically summing over this entire thing based on the allocation that it has actually made, which is with respect to this indicator variable y. So, maximizing the summation of this will basically tell you how much aggregate revenue Google can get purely by showing ads. Okay. Now, Okay? That is the thing. This is just the ad allocation thing. Now, in reality, they do not charge just for showing ads, they charge if somebody clicks, but that is an additional sort of this thing. This is like the best case scenario. If Google could get money just by showing ads, not even requiring people to click through, this would be the way they would solve the problem.
So the algorithm is to solve this.
The AdWord problem reduces just to solving this question. Hold on, not LP yet. Okay? Is this agreed that you want to satisfy these constraints, you want to create an assignment that satisfies this constraint, and among all such possible assignments, right, you want one that maximizes this objective function, because this is the one that captures revenue. So, imagine this being the underlying matching question, revenue maximizing. On top of is that auction setup where Google shares risks and so on and so forth, tells people we will not charge your exact bid value, only if somebody clicks, and that too not the exact bid value, but the second best, and so on and so forth. Okay? All right. So, now notice I said if yijk was a 0 1 variable, then it would basically tell me whether this assignment is being made, advertiser I for keyword j to slot k, and 0 means it is not happening. Okay? That would make this sort of a problem a integer linear program. Integer linear programs are NP hard questions, they are generally very hard to solve, but when we allow fractional values, linear program, they have good, they have polynomial time algorithm. What kind of running time they are, that is a separate matter altogether, but therefore, we try to solve question, these fractionalize them and solve them. Now, the question is, you might still say, but the point is to assign. I mean, when I am doing this ad assign, I can't assign people fraction amount of the slots and so on, right. It becomes an integer sort of, it has, the assignment has to be integer. What an LP optimum solution for an LP does, it guarantees you a certain performance for the integer linear program, the corresponding integer this thing. This is why we are interested in solving the fractional version of an ILP. Okay? That is a very broadly stated fact, but to understand what this actually means, you have to actually take an algorithms course where these sorts of things are taught. Okay? Now, so this is the problem we want to solve. That day also you saw that there was a question that we were solving from the left hand side and from the right hand side, and they sort of came upon, and then I said that they have this primal dual relation, and we know from strong duality that the optimum solution should be exactly the same. Okay? So, here we take the second track. We know here is the primal. Okay, this is called the dual because it is a maximization problem, but the word primal and dual are interchangeably used. Using this, there is a precise way of creating this companion problem that we will call the primal, and these two problems are very deeply entwined. I can use this to solve this, and that is the main idea behind the primal dual LP. Okay? So, now let us take a simpler version of this question, which is the one where we do not have multiple slots. Okay? Same thing, you just have items, you have advertisers and you have items, same. Now, the expression of bids are just for advertisers for items and not slot sensitive. You have the same sort of assignment, this thing, do not assign for across this is for each advertiser. Yeah. So, yeah. So, basically now any sort of a, so now what it becomes is like it is a many to one question. So, for any item or any keyword, you are looking for one advertiser to assign it to. Okay? So, that is what this is. If it is possible that a particular keyword goes unassigned, then the summation of this left hand side will basically be equal to 0. That just means that nobody was interested in the search word. This is again the budget constraint. Okay? The companion problem for this will look something like this. So, let me just walk you through a little bit as to what that represents. Okay?
This, so budget budget that an advertiser has is the total budget, and bids bids are the amount of value it is willing to pay for one keyword, right?
Yes, that's exactly what. That's what this is also.
Then
That
as
is
budget is decreasing, it should never decrease below this BY product. That is what this constraint is saying.
say that it should never decrease below.
The budget is decreasing as the day goes on, but the bid multiplied by the so the bid should not be more than that.
Very good point. So what is happening is, now in that setting that we saw, I'll just address this thing. So in the previous setting that we thought, it was a static game, there was no online component, right? This is an inherently online setting, right? LP formulations were discovered, this primal dual, this thing was discovered by Danzig back in the 1960s for the static problems. But in subsequently in Bushbinder, Safinaur and all, they developed an online formulation for linear program for primal dual this. So what that means is, this particular constraint and this particular constraint we know hypothetically they exist. What I don't know is that which search, like in the online sequence, as the more different search words come into existence, like during the sequence, right, different Bij values. So the advertiser I's are already known, but the whether or not a particular search word, whether or not a particular keyword will even be searched, right, can only be known throughout the day. And when a particular keyword comes sort of is searched, then I know, okay, so this bit Bij is relevant now, and only then do I have to actually decide whether this particular assignment, whether I should assign this particular keyword to this user, to this advertiser. So this entire inequality constraint is revealed over time. So if a particular keyword is never searched throughout the day, this particular term in the summation will never be considered. Okay? So just a minute. So what is happening is, at the beginning of the day, you know your budget is here. As more bids of interest are coming, so this is a particular advertiser, let us say, call it advertiser 1, his budget is here. It's like at the beginning he had no bids at the beginning of the day, then a certain keyword comes in which he is interested in, right. So then this term becomes relevant, like maybe should I assign this particular advertiser to this keyword or not. If it does not, he does not spend any budget. If it is assigned, so the budget becomes, so the amount of money you are spending throughout the day basically starts rising, and what Google guarantees is that it will never cross this mark. This is what this constraint is saying. Okay? So you have a budget, unassigned, unallocated, and throughout the day your utilization of this budget increases, and this says it will never go beyond this. Okay? So these constraints, while they are known in theory, like such a thing exists, like this sort of hypothetical graph, but whether or not this variable will ever come alive can only be known when I process the online sequence, and whether this item, this keyword j, actually appears in the sequence. Okay? So this was the idea, that at a time I basically am sort of satisfying the constraints in an online fashion.
So this is, we could evaluate the second constraint at the end of the day. It should be less than the budget that I had given.
Yeah, and throughout the day I should know that I have not violated it. That is what a feasible solution would be, that at no point during the day have I violated this constraint.
But could we violate it? Like, so when these advertisers given the bid, so is it some percentage of the budget, or it's a different number and budget is a different number?
What is it? No, the budget is a number you declare.
Like I will say that my budget is 1,000 rupees.
Yeah.
And then do I say my bid is 30% of that, or will I say it's 300 rupees?
I give a numerical value.
Because if we give a percentage as such, then it will never violate.
From what I know, Google always accepts numerical values.
So then it will look that the bid does not go above the budget.
Yes. Okay. But that's a good question actually. I could say these are the search words that are of interest. I am interested in this particular search, 50% of my budget should be assigned to this, 20% to that, and so on. That's, I think, it would be a
Because my budget will always decrease. Then a certain point will come where my bid is higher than my budget, but then I won't be able to show ad for that keyword.
Yes.
But if I decrease my bid also, then like that is my priority, that keyword. So I want my most ads to go to that keyword and not the lower keyword. So
Correct.
percentage would be
No, I agree. So, to answer your question, the analysis of this algorithm actually shows that there is at most one step at the very end when this constraint can be violated, and that the first time this is violated, that violation is very small, that requires a proof. However, once it is violated, it will never be violated again, meaning this advertiser's budget has been exhausted and no more ads will be shown for this, this advertiser will not be used for any ads anymore. But the analysis of the algorithm shows that there can be a violation at the very last step, that just the first time you were well below your budget, like next thing comes in and you basically go across. But how much you go across is very small and it can be bounded. So, it is a very small bounded loss. So, what Google does is returns that money. So, what would happen is that this revenue that it had generated, it has a small deduction because of the return of value. Okay? Good questions. Okay? All right. So, now let us try to see, okay, let me just, I do not know, is it a foolhardy thing to try to explain this primal to dual thing? Okay, I just want to tell you that this is a wonderfully powerful framework. If you are at all interested in algorithms, this is the whole point of the school, right? If you are interested in advanced, in doing your higher studies in algorithm design, you will at one point or another will see approximation algorithm. So, you might as well get started if you are interested in this topic. There are wonderful books, lots of nice lecture notes, videos online available. So, take time to learn this. This will serve you well for life. This is basically linear algebra on steroids. I mean, it's like algorithmized linear algebra. So, if you like linear algebra, you should be able to sort of, you should like this. It's well worth exploring. Okay. So,
this is approximated because we want that for ILP, but we are fractionalizing it.
Well, the point is, yes, that's that. So, tell me something, this is a maximization question. If I do not fraction, this is a fractionalizing, it is saying the value should be at least 0, but it does not say it should be 0 or 1, right. It can take any value. Again, I am not upper bounding it with 1 because this constraint itself says that, right. I do not have to place an additional constraint here. But my point is, if this is the LP for, can the ILP version of this problem even be better, give you a better solution than this? No, suppose you could solve it. I am saying the solution wise, not computing.
No.
Who said no? Why?
Because this is the maximum, and if values are changed, it would only reduce the.
Values are changed meaning?
So we are calculating the maximum possible values, right?
Okay, in the interior linear program for this, all the constraints are same except for this. Here you allowed fractional value, over there you will say only 0 or 1. So, you are saying that the optimum value for that program cannot be higher than this, and why is that?
Because we are including that here also.
Very good. A fractional solution, an integer solution is also a fractional solution. So, the fractional optimum can only be better. So, this can only give you a higher value of revenue than it actually is. Okay?
So, for maximization it is better, but not for minimization.
Yes. So, but for minimization the opposite thing holds, the fractional minimization, the ILP is always a fractional solution. So, the whatever optimum fractional solution you find is at least better. Better in a minimization context means a lesser value. Better in a maximization context means a higher value. Okay, so better means different things in different contexts. So, let me quickly say one thing. The way this thing works is follows. What is this saying? This is saying that this is the constraint. You can imagine Yij starts with a value 0 and slowly it is gaining value. You can go all the way up to 1. This constraint cannot be violated, meaning across, if I just add up the Yij values for all the, I keep the search word, the j index same, and I add up across all the advertiser, it cannot go past 1, right. Okay. So, so this is what this means. And similarly, you have this same idea that these values, it is like you are accumulating the bid values, it cannot exceed the budget of this ith advertiser. On this side, what are we saying? Corresponding to each of these constraints, there are m of these constraints, we have a variable that tracks that constraint. Okay? Let us call it this variable zj. Corresponding to each of these constraints, there are n of them, there is a variable xi. Okay? The constraint space here has a relationship with the constraint space here. In particular, this set of constraints can be written as a matrix of coefficients A transpose, A times some vector of the y values, such that some of the top columns m rows give you at most 1, and the bottom one, basically this will be an m plus n row matrix, would be this budget values. Okay, just imagine that. That matrix and the coefficients it picks up, some of these are 0 and 1, this is like this bid value and all. If you take the transpose of that matrix, is the coefficient matrix for this constraint. Okay. So, the relationship here is the following: for every constraint here, you have a variable in the primal. Okay. And there are lots of other relationships, complementary slackness, which says that if you want to set yij to be more than 0, then the corresponding constraint must be tight, and so on and so forth. Those are the things that allow us to give an algorithm which looks like this. Again, perhaps it's I will just take 5 more minutes and I will try to explain as to what this is happening. Okay.
Here, in this one, we are saying that yij can be fractional. So, for one keyword, there can be 2 advertisements.
Yes, it's called the relaxed version of the actual problem, which is an integer linear program.
We will round it later, or
So, rounding is one other way of getting results, approximate results from the LP formulation. We are not doing rounding here, we are using the other method, which is the primal dual. Okay. So, rounding is one way you extract a solution from this thing, from a fractional solution, but here we will use the primal dual thing. Okay. So,
but later it will happen that only one keyword has one advertiser, right? Because in this constraint we can have multiple advertisers.
So, the way we solve this, the way it would actually be solved, this is why these are all approximate solutions, right? The way we will solve this, we will try to solve this as best as possible, but based on the guarantees of this, we get a guarantee on that integer solution also. That is how Google knows that I am at least guaranteed to get this much revenue. Okay? That is the thing. This is the pure combinatorial question underlying it, and getting a guarantee for this allows us to take a guarantee for the integer program. But you see, there are lots of other details here. Google is not going to charge people Bij. Google charges the second highest price or whatever, right? I mean, it does something weird. It does not actually do that also, but okay. So, there are interesting stories as to why they did not adopt Meyerson's pricing rule as this thing, because it said they did not know such a thing existed. Okay. So, they set up some pricing scheme, and then then they did market research and realized, oh my god, we are leaving out so much revenue on the board, there was a better way, but they did not want to change things too much, and so they continued. Okay. So, what is happening here is the following: we are essentially trying to set the values of yij. That allows us to solve this, get a value for this optimization problem. How we solve yij, how the values of yij should be set, is dictated by what happens to the constraint corresponding to yij, which is this constraint. So, as we tighten this constraint, that tells us something about how to set the value of yij. This is the essence of the primal dual technique. Okay? So, if you rearrange this, you will see that zj, this thing, is at least bij minus 1 minus xi. Okay? So, for all of these ij's. So, potentially what this means is this value xi, which is 0 at first. Okay, let us go at step by step. So, initially for each buyer I set xi to be 0. Upon arrival of an item j, which means a search word, you allocate it to a buyer I who maximizes this quantity. Bij into 1 minus xi. So, xi is initially 0. So, basically you are charging them, whoever has the highest bid, that person gets it. Okay. Subsequently, we will do a different charging thing. Now, if xi has become greater than equal to 1, then we will do nothing. Okay. So, at the beginning xi is 0, so we continue onwards. Now, so I have basically, I am going to assign the item j to the user who has this maximum value, who maximizes this. But what am I actually going to charge him? I am going to charge him of the minimum of his leftover budget or this quantity. So, I said zj to be this, and then where is it? Yeah. So, charge the buyer the minimum between Bij and his remaining budget, and you basically assign yj to 1. So, if its budget is lower than his bid, you just charge him the bid, charge him the budget. If the bid is lower than the budget, you basically charge that person his bid amount. Okay. And with that, you basically what you have done, this step and this step tells you this item j has been assigned to advertiser I, and we are done by setting the value of yij to be 1. Okay. Now, what am I doing? I adjust the value of xi. Look at this term there and see if you can actually see how this, what this actually represents. Xi, which started out with 0, initially it was 0. So, this term will initially disappear. What I am doing is, so the only thing I am going to do is basically charge assign to I this Bij with some adjusted c minus 1 times the, it is like I have utilized a portion of this person's available budget. That is the information that xi tracks. And at the end of this, once you cannot assign anything, like when this entire algorithm sort of runs out, you can show that what you have is a feasible allocation except for some users, some advertisers for one last assignment where there was some violation. That requires a proof, and there is no way I can explain this in this sort of, we need a lot of some knowledge of, we will have to work through the proof. Okay. It is not complicated if you have some knowledge of linear programming duality.
Can you once explain this first?
Which first?
Charge the buyer the minimum between.
So, if your xi is greater than equal to more than 1, do nothing. So, xi is less than 1, between 0 to 1. Then you are basically seeing who should this item go to. You are going to give to that person who has bid the highest. Okay. So, we saw in that auction sort of thing, right? These matchings are also sort of auction inspired in that way. So, you give the item to that person who has bid the highest. Now, the question is how much will you charge? You are not necessarily charging the person exactly what they have bid. Maybe you will charge them something less. You will charge them less if they have less budget available. That is what this step is doing. Charge the buyer the minimum between Bij and his remaining budget, and then set Yij to 1. So, setting Yij to 1 means the allocation is complete. This person has been assigned this item and he has been charged.
So, it could happen that say I have 1000 rupees and I said that first I will give, say, like, could it happen that my Bij was higher than the other person?
Yeah.
But because I exhausted my budget, so that 1 minus xi has.
Yes, and that is when my violation can happen. I bid the highest, the item came to me, but now I do not have that much money. So, Google is going, basically this item costs me more than what my budget allows. So, when I said that that is the last, that is the only time when there is a budget violation. Okay. But notice one thing, because, so, and after that, when it will be realized that his budget has actually been exhausted, xj will become, xi for that agent will actually become set to 1. That is when you will do nothing, you will assign no more items to this person. So, the fact that the last time there was a violation is something that we have to deal with. So, how do we deal with it? Basically, this inequality was exceeded, that value goes back to that agent, because the Google, you have a guarantee that their budget will not be their budget will not be exceeded, but this term, these summations also appear in this this optimization thing, right. So, you basically take away that much amount of money and this value also comes down. So, that is how we actually manage this. Because this is happening inside, you assign as item and charge later. So, you basically realize that there has been a violation a step later. You do not realize the violation has happened before assigning the item. Okay. Now, let us go back and recall that I said that this analysis works and this comparative ratio is attained when we have that small bid assumption, when everybody's budget was much larger than any of the bids they have submitted. Okay. That is what guarantees that this violation will be very small compared to that overall budget. Okay. Therefore, loss in revenue after the fact would be also small, because the violation was small.
So that was just guaranteeing that while returning the money, a lot of
money is not lost. Exactly. There is a huge amount of money was not like misaligned. Yes, that is the thing. Okay. So, I have said pretty much everything I wanted to say as far as the technical this part is concerned. So, I am just going to say that when this is, there is only one slot and BI and you have uniform budget, this itself is a very important question. It is called the B matching, and this was studied by Kalyan Sundaram and Pros in 2000, and there is a nice algorithm also greedy like, but not exactly, this called balance, that also attains 1 minus 1 by E competitive ratio under the assumption that the budgets are really large. So, what is balance? Balance is basically going to do the other thing. You assign an item to people who have highest sort of unutilized budget. So, that would basically handle the case you were saying, that there is a person with lots of budget, but because their bids were not high enough, so they never got their money, Google could not harness, right. So, balance tries to do that. Now, it is not very hard to see that there are certain cases in which greedy works well and there are certain cases where balance works well. A hybrid approach is what led to, and it is easier to say hybrid, but it basically is what led to the development of these more sophisticated algorithms. Okay, all right. So, okay, the random is like randomly assign slot to anybody and so on and so forth. That is also half, this is actually half, this is half, close to half, this is log n by n, which is basically a diminishing term, it is a vanishing term when n is large enough. And in 2000, when Vazirani was both of these Vaziranis who gave the advert problem, they were themselves PhD student, or they are just of this of Dick Karp. They showed this, gave this algorithm ranking for this case, just classical online bipartite matching. Ranking is a randomized algorithm, and they showed they were able to beat this half bound and show it is actually 1 minus 1 by E. So, long story short, all these generalized matching questions also meet the same bound as 1 minus 1 by E, which we know to be tight for the standard 1-to-1 matching scenario without budget.
These are all unconditional lower bounds.
Yes. Okay. So, so concluding thoughts, exceptionally important problem analysis led to lot of work, subsequent work. Sometimes you have the simple an idea basically sort of lasts longer than the sort of the initial original reason why it was proposed. If you want to see more details, you want to see more variations of the advert questions, more generalizations and so on. There is also associated question called display ads, which is a bit different, but all those things have been studied, have been discussed by Aranak Mehta as a really nice survey, and it's part of it's discussed in there along with proofs. Importance of, I just want to, this is probably going to be the, you will see from the starting point of algorithmic game theory is a much older discipline than algorithmic game theory. From the very beginning of algorithmic game theory, approximation algorithms was the sort of the quote unquote the solution type that we were looking for. Part of this is because of efficiency. the type of approximation algorithm we are looking for are polynomial time algorithms. They generally work, the ideas are generally simple to implement and so on. So, the efficiency thing is guaranteed. It oftentimes is easier to explain, well not always, maybe the advert thing is not easy to explain to everybody. So, this is why, and by the late 90s approximation algorithm was already a very rich and mature topic. So, lots of techniques and ideas already existed which these algorithmists were able to harness to solve problems for algorithmic game theory. Okay. All right, and this goes well beyond this auction matching thing. I will talk about some approximation, I will see what will happen in the next week, maybe for routing and congestion game, not really sure, but this is just a fact that approximation algorithms are fairly ubiquitous in the subject of algorithmic game theory. Okay, I think with that I will end. Thank you.